just want to, as you guys were all talking, and when Jeff was talking about money, when money gets into the equation, I think that, as we're thinking about our unique abilities, sometimes, like I know people whose unique ability is to brighten the day of other people. And a friend of mine just passed away. He used to be the president of King Broadcasting in Seattle. Not at the time that I worked there, but he was a dear friend in the Rotary Club of Seattle. And I knew him for probably 20 years. Eric Bremner is his name. And he battled cancer for the last couple of years, and his son sent out an email and said, I think the end's getting here. And, oh man. And he said, the end's near, and my dad would love to hear from you, all of you. And so I sent an email, and I just thanked him that he knew the challenges that I was facing, because broadcasting can be a really crappy industry. It can be really beautiful at times too, but he knew when I was struggling, and he would come up and put his hand on my shoulder, and he would give me a kind word and a smile and give me advice. And it just made my life better. And so I wrote this email, and his son read it to him, and he said his dad was just overwhelmed at the outpouring. And I don't know if Eric knew that at the time, but just those kind words at the right time were an amazing gift to me. And I'm glad that he got to hear that before he passed away. And so it just makes me think that, yeah, it's not about money. It's not about a job. It's just about who you are and how you show up in the world. And what are you doing on a daily basis? And most of this stuff, by the way, doesn't take money, does it? But that's what it's about, right? Taking those opportunities, job or not, career or not, to make other people's lives just a little bit better.
So Mark, thanks for sharing, because it just... Yeah. Another exercise so Keith Cunningham is the one that I'm speaking on with regards to all these tools that I'm mentioning, and he was in Robert Kiyosaki's book Rich Dad Poor Dad. Kiyosaki took 3 people to basically create Rich Dad as a character, and he was one of them. Keith Cunningham was one of them. And when I took his mentorship course, one of the things that he made us do is write a eulogy, our own. Whoa. Okay, and it was... But the other thing that he did is we had to hand it in. So we wrote it. And so we had to hand it in. So we handed it in. And then when the course was over, we had all these to-dos and, what changed and how we're going to apply it, yada, yada, yada. So as a surprise... 3 months later, he mailed the eulogy to us and said, "Are you living with your purpose and your promise?"
Wow.
Okay, so it was right. It just came to me because it's like, you live as, not that you should think this way, but it's imagine if it's your last. What is it that you need to do and how do you need to be? And it was the same feeling I had when I asked for all these letters to come back. It's overwhelming. But it was a life lesson that, started to set the stage for me to say, okay, what's important? Like, what's really, really important? And in terms of the money piece that, Jeff brought up, I learned so much from the younger demographic because I listen and I try to understand. And it's amazing how many of them say, okay, you might want to bleep this out, but we don't give a shit about money. And I'm like, what do you mean? It's like, no, we really don't care. Like it means nothing to us. And I had a talk with a 22-year-old leader many years ago. And when I was really curious, I said, can I take you out for dinner, man? I have some questions because I don't understand you guys. He goes, sure. So it was a 3-hour conversation with this guy, which in on itself, with no technology, right? Like in on itself is pretty amazing. And I started asking him questions, and I said, what one of the main ones was, what do you think the strength is of your demographic? And he goes, oh, nobody's ever asked me that before. And we listed, we went through it, and then I hierarchied the top 3. Okay, so this was age group of 18 to 30. And to this day, it's being bang on with everyone that I ask in that age category. And we got the top 3. Okay, so think about what you think the top 3 strengths would be for the demographic, that younger demographic between 18 and 30. Okay, now I thought I had number 1 nailed because I'm thinking, okay, social network, social, technology, that type of thing. That was number 3. Okay, what do you guys think number 2 was? Energy. A lot of it. A lot. Right? Energy is their number 2 strength. And it's either getting suppressed or expressed in ways that's not supportive because they're trying to figure out number 1. Okay, ready for this one? Be a part of a movement against the status quo to make an impact or make a difference in the world. They all agree when you say, and they go, uh-huh. Right? So, if you think, and the reason why I love talking to entrepreneurs, or people that are misfits or perceived misfits in society or doing things that are different. It's like, okay, James, you're an engineer, you're doing coaching. What the hell? It's different, right? Because most people are going to do engineering, continue doing engineering. But when you listen to the story, it's usually because it's against the status quo. It's making an impact in the world, right? And it's different. You listen to what people say, and there's a meaningful component to it. There's something meaningful about it that you can't explain. It has to get expressed, and you listen from other people in terms of what they're saying, right? So, and then you end up talking to certain people, and they're like, you know what? When it's my last breath, man, I'm gonna have a freaking party. It's like, I'm done, checking out of here. Woo! I've done what I needed to. Off I go, and it's exciting, right? It's just total reframe. Anyways, those are a couple of my million thoughts going through my head right now.
That's great. Before we start to wrap things up, anybody want to throw anything out? Reactions before I pose a final question? James, anything?
Nothing really comes to mind. I'm just really soaking all of the different pieces and the parts of the conversation in. Thank you for sharing about your experience. It really does show the value of investing in the relationships around us and just having that whole attitude of how can I add value? As Jeff said, how can I add value to any and every situation that I face? And when you see somebody who may be struggling or see somebody who wants the promotion but is not getting it or wants to do something different and is not getting it, say a kind word. Be there for them to encourage them. You're not necessarily counseling them, but you are trying to kind of bring a ray of sunshine on their day, right? And if anybody's listening and they find themselves in that position where you want to do something different or you want to grow, but you feel like you're stuck, make sure you take ownership of your situation and learn where you are, because things that you can begin to put into place in terms of your values, in terms of your habits, those things you can build on to help better prepare you for the future that you want. A lot of times we think about the future that we want, but not about the person that we need to be in order to get there, but to stay there and to grow from there. And there are things that you may need to do right now to better prepare you for that position. But if you're stuck in the now, thinking about how bad the situation is, how you're not able to grow, how unfair it is, then you are not going to grow. You need to create that vision of what it is you want.